Hi, I'm Liz, and thank you for tuning into my channel, Making It Easy with Liz. I am a metal and wire worker. That's my favorite medium to work with. And so today I'm going to show you some tips and techniques that you can use for metal and the proper way to cut out your metal with shears. So this piece here, this is a piece that I used my Cuttlebug. If you're like me, you have lots of different craft stuff, and I liked making cards at one time. I can't be bothered now, so I use the equipment for my metal. Works out fabulous. This was done with this envelope here, this embossing envelope, plastic. This is 26 gauge brass sheet. 24 will also work, but it doesn't give quite the definition of the emboss, but it still works pretty good. These here are made by Sizzix, and these are from Vintage, I believe, and they are metal. And these really work nicely with the 24 gauge sheet metal, which is a little bit heavier than this 26. The 26 still is a nice thickness. It's great for earrings. Pendants, it might be a little on the light side unless you're going to be adorning it with beads and whatnot. So let me show you how to make this work for your metal. We are going to take this piece of, and I believe this is 24 gauge here, this piece of copper. You're going to open this up. Now this has suction cups on the bottom. So when you open these up on a table without a pad on it, it will stick. So we're not going to be able to do that today because I've got this on here, but I'm going to go ahead and flip this around because I am right-handed. It comes with these different plates. So this is your bottom plate. That fits at the bottom. So you're going to set this up just like you do with your card making. But just in case you've never seen this before, this will be a good demonstration for you. Now I personally like to, this just isn't quite thick enough for me. So I take a little piece of cardboard like this, a little board, and I put it at the way bottom. So now I've got my plate A, and I've got two plate B's here, and those are going to get stacked on top of my embossing envelope. So I'm going to take my piece of metal, and I'm going to pick out my envelope here. So you can do up to this big of a sheet through this Cuttlebug, but right now we're just going to do this small little piece here. So you line it up wherever you like it to be, where you want your design to be. Like that. I'm going to lay that on top of there. I slide that like this. Okay, so you're going to put it in until there's some give, and now you're going to roll it through. This definitely has some give to it. Okay, and I like to bring it through again. All right, cool. All right, so I'm going to take this off, open this up. And look how cool that is, right? So now you can do something with this. You can lay your pattern piece on this now and cut it out. So what you're going to do is you're going to, when you do your pattern pieces, I make up my own pattern pieces. I do them on Microsoft Publisher. And I go into where you can draw your own things, and they have some basic shapes that you can use also, and you can adjust them and the size and everything. Here's a little pattern piece of different shapes and sizes and whatnot. So what I do is I cut out my pattern piece, but I don't cut it on the lines. I cut it on the lines when I get it on the metal. So let's go ahead and we'll take this one right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this one out. So we have a little edge on there, and decide on what side you want. The imprint, right? This is raised a little different than what this one is, so I'm going to go with this one here. I like to use a glue stick that is acid-free. I made the mistake of using some cheap glue stick that I got at Walmart, 3 for $1. There you go. And I had it set up like this. I had glued on all my pieces, but I hadn't gotten to it yet to cut them out. What had happened was the glue was not acid-free and it etched my metal. It ruined it. It etched it. It scratched it up. It put marks into it and it was ruined. So you want to go with acid-free, and you still don't want this laying around for too long anyway. Just do it enough to dry, or the next day cut them out, but don't let it sit around too long. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to put a generous amount, I mean a nice generous amount of glue on, because there's nothing more frustrating than when you're cutting and halfway into it your piece starts to slide off. So I'm going to go ahead and just really slather on this glue. All right. Okay, and then you just go ahead and position it where you want it on your piece. Smooth it down. All right, and so you're going to let that set. Let that set for about 10 minutes. Let that glue just really give time to set. And then you're going to cut out your piece. So I'm going to set that aside, and now we're going to cut out. I'm going to show you how to properly cut out using your metal shears. These are metal shears. These are vintage metal shears. They're really awesome. They cut through the metal like butter. So what you want to do is, the secret to, and this is how I learned this, was I was wondering why one side of my cutout piece was nice and rounded, the edges were nice and folded over, and then the other side had this raised lip on it that I had to keep on filing to smooth out. And I was thinking, why in the world was that doing that? Well, here's why. When you are cutting out, so I'll go in here and I'll just go ahead and pre-cut out my piece. Okay, so when you're cutting, you want to keep your piece to the left of your cutters at all times. So what I was doing was, I was doing this. I would come in here and I would cut this side out. But then I would go over to here, and with my piece on the right side, I would come in here, let's say, and try to cut that out going in this direction. And what that does is, one side folds the edge down, the other side flips it up. So what you want to do is you want to take, and you want to keep your piece to the left side of your cutters at all times. So you come in here like this, and instead of trying to make that corner, I just cut past it. Then I'm going to take it, and this grabs really nicely, so you can come in here and turn. Now my piece, this has been glued on here for a while, and I'm hoping they don't pop off. Okay, and I snip that off, but see, I'm staying to the left. My piece is to the left of my shears at all times. And it is going to pop off. But there's my piece. Okay, so there you go. Now you'll feel this side is all raised up, and that's what you're going to file down, and this side is all nice and smooth. I always cut my corners off. It makes it easier to round it out with a file. Okay, so there's that with that. So for this piece here, I would just come in here like this, get rid of that. Cut. Now this is thicker, so yes, it's going to be hard to turn corners, so I'm just going to cut past it. Come back here, pick it up at the end of my shears, and turn it while I cut it. Pick it up, turn while I cut. And there you go. Very nice. So now I see it, there's a little bit, I didn't get really close, but see, you could grab onto that and just get in there. And I'll warn you, these little pieces here, they're like little needles. You want to watch out for that. And these here, that's awful. Those are terrible. So you want to be really careful, especially if you're using your hand to sweep everything up. I always have a little tray. I keep all my copper scraps. So you want to have a little container to put all of your scraps in so that you don't end up going to the hospital. Okay, so there's our piece. Now to get this off, I soak it in water. It slides right off and I get all the glue off of it. But next I'm going to show you how to file that. So I'll be right back. I'm going to go grab my file and I'll be right back. Okay, so there's lots of files. This one's really rough. It doesn't have a very fine surface, and I would think that you would want a finer surface if you're going to use this kind of file. But let me tell you about this kind of file. You have to file in one direction. You can't go back and forth with this kind of a file, so you can only go in one direction. So that's why I don't use these. I very rarely ever use these when I'm working with metal. What I like is nail files. You can get these at the beauty supply store. Those are the best ones from the beauty supply store. And this one has a medium grit of 100 and 180. So this is really, really rough. And this is a little bit smoother. So what you're going to do is you're going to go along, and with this you can go back and forth and all over. So I might take the rougher one and just really get in here. With my final filing, I do go in one direction just so that everything stays consistent. Okay, so I still have this little lip here, so I'm going to take my finer side and I'm going to come like this. Now when you're filing down like this, you're actually putting a sharper edge on here, so you're going to have to go back and just square off that edge there. Now because the front here is already bent over, we don't have to worry about filing on the front, which is really nice. That's less work for me. So now I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that that's all nice and smooth. So that's coming along really nicely. It feels good. Now another thing you can do, which is like what I really like to do, is I like to cut out my pieces first in just plain straight metal. Then I take each individual piece and I put it through the envelope. That way, if I want two matching pieces, I can just go ahead, put my piece in there, run it through, take the other piece and run it through, and then I have two matching pieces. I have a choice of where I want my embossing to go on. And in that case, you would cut out your piece, put it through the embosser, then file. Because I find when you emboss or you texture, you create more edges that need to be filed. So why not just do it all in one shot? Quick and easy, right? Okay, so that looks pretty good. All right, so now that I can go ahead and take that off, I can punch holes in it. I can do a lot of different things to this piece. Okay, so now the next thing I want to show you is how to patina this. We're going to go ahead and patina this with liver of sulfur. So I'm going to go mix it. Here's our piece. We got it nice and filed. It feels really good. It's nice and smooth all the way around. And now I'm getting ready to patina it. So right now what I have is I have a mug of hot tap water. This is liver of sulfur gel. I like the gel way better than the lump form. The lump form is unstable. So if any of the slightest bit of air or light or whatever, you look at it wrong and it goes bad. And you don't know it went bad until you put it in the water and it doesn't dissolve. It's just like a rock. And it's very expensive, and for it to go bad, it's a big waste of money. And if you don't use it that often, then this is the best way to go. This is a gel, it's stable, it doesn't go bad, and this little bottle will last you a long time. So for copper patinas immediately. So we only need 1 drop. And you can see I have just enough water there to cover my piece. And let's see, I'm going to stir it up with some funky thing. Use a mandrel here. Okay, so that's really bright yellow. I really don't need it that yellow because this is going to patina right away. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that in there, and you'll see that it darkens quite quickly. And you can see it's already starting to darken. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get that. So see how it's starting to get darker? So you can control how dark you want it. You don't want to walk away from this. When you have the solution this strong, you really don't want to walk away from it. But you can use even cooler water, and that too will hasten, or it will keep it from getting dark real fast. And then sometimes you can get some really cool colors in it. But we're gonna leave that in there, and I'm gonna watch it, and I'm gonna get it really dark. So I just have a mug of water here. You want to rinse it off when you're done. And actually, if you want to really stop the action, you can add a little baking soda in your rinse water. Okay, so I'm not gonna let that go black. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put that in my baking soda water. Okay, so this is what we end up with. It's not as dark as what I normally let it get, but just for our purposes tonight, I'm just gonna let it go like that. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm gonna go ahead and use some superfine steel wool. This is the one with the 4 zeros, and it comes in a little pillow like this. And what you're going to do is you're just going to pull off a little bit of it, and you're going to roll it into a ball. So you have this little pad to use, and do this over a paper towel or a piece of paper, something that you can just pick it up and throw it away, because this breaks off little itty bitty pieces of it. And you might want to wear gloves too. I find this stuff sort of, it's my least favorite thing to do. So I hate the way it feels in my hands, so I normally wear gloves. But you're just going to take this, and I go in one direction, and it gives it a really nice little satin finish. Now, had I done this darker, my recessed areas would have stayed more darker, but all right, so that's what that side looks like. Look how that brought out the texture. And here's what the other back side would do. You always want to do the back side too. If you're like me, I always end up liking the back side better than I do the front. So when using those embossing envelopes, you'll have to look and see when you're placing your metal in it, what design you actually like. So there you go. Look how pretty that is. Isn't that cool? So it adds a nice finish. Now you can add a metal glaze onto this, spray it with lacquer. You can go in and paint the inside of these if you want. You can do all kinds of different stuff. So that's how you use your Cuttlebug for embossing your metal pieces. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you like this, and I'll be coming back with some more. Thanks so much.